Welcome back, listeners, to the Mindful Journey podcast. I'm your host, Sana, and this is the space where we explore the space between doing and being, leadership and listening, ambition and alignment. I'm your host, Sana, as always, and today's conversation, listeners, is a masterclass in modern leadership. And let me share about my guest with all of you. Our guest has spent over 4 decades navigating the terrain of corporate America, most recently as a project manager at a Fortune 500 giant. But since retiring in 2018, her mission has transformed from managing deliverables to empowering humans. She now helps entrepreneurs elevate their communication, build impactful teams, and most importantly, lead with heart, head, and hands. And this isn't about titles and tactics. It is about embodying the kind of leadership that serves, inspires, and uplifts. So, if you have ever thought or wondered what it really means to lead in the 21st century with presence, precision, and purpose, this episode is for you. So, listeners, meet my esteemed guest, Vicki Noethling. So, Vicki, welcome to the show, and I am absolutely honored to have you here with us.
Thank you, Sana. It's always good to be with you and have meaningful conversations.
Totally, totally. Vicky, let's explore your journey and let's try to understand what exactly is meant by leading with heart, the head, and hands. And um, most leaders they tend to lead with one more than the others. I mean, you know, uh, in 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 general, it's quite a tricky task to balance everything together. So, which did you lead with first, and which took the longest for you to develop?
Thank you for that. And I think anyone will say that individual situations may call for your leadership style to change. But
Mm,
on the whole, I think that you should always start with leading with your heart. Leading with your heart is really developing relationships with people. I think, oftentimes we think leaders are ones that inspire and motivate. And that is true. But until you know the individuals that are working with you, for you, alongside you, if you will, you really can't motivate them. You can't really uh, have a cookie cutter solution. Each individual has different things that excite them, that inspire them, that get them through those tough times, right? And
mm,
so, if you don't take the time to get to know the people that are working with you, it's really difficult to be, I think, truly successful as a team, especially. Once you know the person, you understand what makes them tick, if you will, um, on their personal as well as their professional life, then it's easier for you when you talk about the strategy, the mission, the vision, to be able to put it in terms that will inspire them, motivate them, um,
mm,
make them be able to understand. So that's the head portion. Too often, you have the situation where it is uh, the leader is just dumping everything from a strategy. This is what we're going to do. This is our vision. This is our mission. And
mm,
those that are around the people that are acting on it, that are implementing it, don't really see how they fit. And if
mm,
they don't see how they fit, then it's easy for them to feel frustrated or feel that they really aren't a contributor. So I think that the first thing always is the heart, building that relationship. And then once you do that, then you can talk about using the head, the strategy, the understanding the vision. And the final piece is the hands. I always get so much more from giving than I ever expected. And so the hands is all about servant leadership. And when that's combined with the empathy that you have from the heart, the emotional intelligence you use, it really just flows well. It's a system for success.
Hmm. And that's really very, very well explained, Vicky. And it's really fascinating to see that how all of the three, they are like complementing each other. And
Mhm.
of leading with the heart, it's the first step. And it's kind of interesting because I imagine many people might assume that head is what gets you ahead, especially in corporate business. But it's powerful to hear how the heart plays a quiet but persistent role. It takes time, but the results, we do see the results. It does take time. And I would love to know your opinion on that.
Absolutely. I mean, it is always the slight edge, right? The small things that we do in life that make a difference. And you don't expect the results right away. It's those really invisible little movements that you don't realize are starting to compound over time to make a huge impact. Again,
Mm.
when I first started in corporate, the the thought process was that, whoever yells the loudest, it's my way or the highway. And fear was really the motivator as opposed to uh, what it should be. And so I just was demotivated oftentimes and frustrated. And I thought there has to be a better way. And then I was so fortunate, probably every job I've had, 4 companies that I've worked with. And every company, I had that one person that was that mentor, and not the formal, "I'm gonna be your mentor, and we're gonna have this mentor-mentee situation." It was really done from the heart. They saw, um, something in me that I didn't see in myself, and then they brought out they um, really lit a flame under you to be able to really glow and grow. And so I think that the, um, the thing that we really need to understand is that you have to start small, just simple conversations with people. And then as you see the things that they're doing that are impressive, you always have to compliment them on the things that they've done. You really need to think about recognition. But going back to building that relationship, you see, well, how do they want to be recognized? I remember being parts of formal recognition programs as the head, and the management would tell me, "Well, this is what we're going to do." But
Mhm.
as you got to know the individuals, they didn't want a piece of paper with a certificate. That they they appreciated you buying them coffee and having a sit down with them to listen about their ideas,
Yeah.
finding what it is. I remember one of my really key mentors, he knew that I needed to know more, and I hadn't gotten a college degree at that time. And
Mhm.
so he sent me to research a project that was totally outside of the realm of what I was doing, but
Okay.
it was something that he was working on, and he thought that I would gain some understanding and knowledge. So he sent me to a library for the day during
Mhm.
work time. And my direct supervisor was having a heart attack over it because what precedent was he setting to send me off site? But the way it made me feel made such an impact that when I became a supervisor of people and we had a
Mm.
project to be able to create and improve a process at the office. And so I sent my whole team to watch a movie sent them
Yeah.
to the theater to watch Mr. Holland's Opus so they
Ah.
could get a different insight about people and motivation and when you're down, how you can get up again. And it made us win gold. And so that little things like that happened throughout my career that really convinced me that the people are the most important asset that we have in our business, and how we treat them will determine whether or not we are successful.
And this is more and more relevant, especially in today's times, when
Yeah.
everyone is talking about digital AI and all that
Mhm.
stuff, automation. I think
Yes,
this.
and I love AI, but
Mhm.
you still have to get to know the person. Even the more that I put information about me into the AI that I use, it's amazing how much it's starting to get to know me and to really be able to describe who I am and what I do and why I do it. And I think, if that's a lesson for the people of the world, the humans, to understand that how important it is to take the time to get to know your people, that it's not just task after task after task. There's real value in just having time to just sit and chat and get to know each other.
Wow, that's really profound. And Vicky, you mentioned in the beginning about servant leadership. Um,
Mm.
so in a high stakes corporate setting, how do you balance being of service with getting results under pressure? Like, doesn't service sometimes, risk being mistaken for softness or weakness?
I guess it's a different definition in my mind. I again, the companies that I've worked with were very service oriented. So um,
Mhm.
we went out and volunteered in the community quite a lot. And in that, there were a lot of leadership lessons learned when you went out and helped build a house or when you helped pack school supplies in book bags. The teamwork that it took to organize things efficiently, to make use of your time, to laugh with one another, I think was really important. Uh, I don't think you have to be cold and hard to be able to be efficient. Um, some of the best teams I've ever been on were teams where we laughed more than anything, but we got exemplary, fabulous work done.
Mm,
We were one of the highest performing teams at the time, but it's because we knew what the main thing was and we were
mm,
focused on the main thing, the end goal. How we got there didn't make as much difference as getting there. So I always end my podcast with life is a journey, but it's up to you to enjoy the ride. And I think too often we try to be perfect. We try to really make the people that we work with do things our way because we believe it's the best way to do it. But if they can do it a different way, get it done as well as we need it to be done, then go ahead, let them do it their way. I think it empowers them, gives them confidence to be creative and innovative. And I think those things are missing in business quite often because people are afraid to do things outside of the box for fear of reprimanding or feeling that they can't fit in. But
mm,
no boss wants a little mini me. I'm sorry. To be effective teams, you have to have different facets. Life, a character is really like a diamond, and each of the different aspects of a team are the different facets of a diamond. And each of those different facets makes that diamond valuable. And I think that's when we look at what we're doing in life, we need to make sure that um, you take into account that efficiency and effectiveness doesn't always have to be cold and sterile.
Mm. I completely um, second that. And we often confuse servant leadership with people pleasing, which for the fact, I don't I don't believe in that. Definitely, there's a difference between being empathetic, but then also at the same time um, having that respectable boundary, um, and having your own opinion, your own thoughts and feelings as well. So that's where I think communication comes into the picture. And you, Vicky, you help entrepreneurs improve how they deliver their message. That could be online, that could be in person. So, in your experience, what's the biggest mistake they make in communicating their vision?
I think the first thing is that a lot of people don't know what their vision is. They don't really take the time to cultivate it, to be able to then clearly share what it is, and again, why people should care about it.
Mm.
I remember being in a project where we went for months and months, and we kept on asking the stakeholder, "What what's the vision? Where, how can we motivate people, inspire people, persuade people to spend money or time if we don't understand ourselves what your vision is?" So first is to clearly understand what your vision is, and your vision should always align with your core values. So what are your core values? Core values really are your decision making pointers. If it doesn't align with your core values, then that's an easy no. So I think what we have to do is understand, you talked about servant leaders being people pleasers as one thought process. But a true servant leader is one that has to look at not only the positive, but the negative, the gaps, the opportunities for change. And sometimes that's hard for someone to hear. But as a servant leader, you owe it to them to be able to say, this has to change, or you won't survive the next 10 years as a business, or as a speaker trainer, whatever your role is in life. And it's hard to hear the no's. So that's where the heart comes in again. How can you tell someone that they need to change or the no and still have them excited to make the change? To- And that goes back to what we talked about earlier of anytime you do something like that, it should be in small steps
Yeah.
that they can easily accomplish, get rewarded or acknowledged of their accomplishments. And so, therefore, as a servant leader, you just find ways to share your knowledge, your experience to be able to help that person grow, gain their own um, insights and experience. And then all of a sudden, the vision starts to come through.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. It's like unfolding of your own that one true purpose.
Hmm.
Um, mm. And Vicky, um, it's fascinating how unlearning is often harder than learning something new. And
Yes.
it's really it sometimes really feels like a frustration within ourselves when
Mm,
we think that something that we believed in may not be the right way. So
mm.
I think many leaders carry invisible scripts from old hierarchies. So, what's your advice to someone who is feeling stuck between the old rules and the new way of showing up?
I have found that when I stretch myself to try something different,
Mhm.
do something different, and I've been lucky to be introduced to a lot of diverse individuals out there who showed me different ways to do things, or something that I saw online. And I thought, my philosophy is that give it a go, you know, as long as it doesn't put you in jail or kill you, you should give it a go, give it a try. And what I have happily experienced is that I came out better on the other side when I did that. It's almost like, when a flower blooms and it's at first, the bud is beautiful and simple. And then as it opens, it just becomes more beautiful and more interesting. And I think that's what happens as we stretch ourselves. So if we're feeling stuck, be courageous enough, which is the first step to confidence, to try something new. If anything happens, even if you fail, you've learned a lesson. So maybe the way that you always did it isn't the best to do anymore. Life changes, your circumstances changes, technology comes in. People tend to be afraid of what they don't know. But again, give it a try. If the worst thing that could happen, what's the worst thing that could happen?
And I uh, imagine that this is so this holds really a huge relevance, especially in the for the leadership and the mid-level
Mhm.
executives or managers as well, because there could be a huge generational difference in understanding of certain concepts or aspects of leading or approaching a certain task. We can learn from the younger workforce as well, which
Mhm. Yeah,
personally felt it's commonly, not there much, not much encouraged or practiced. But I think that's such a healthy and a mindful way to learn.
I I had my grandson. One of the things I teach is leading, and it's not what you say. Oftentimes, it's how you say it that makes the difference. And I was in the car driving with my oldest grandson now, but he was 4 years old, 3 or 4 years old. And he was in the back seat and just describing to me what he saw out the window. And he was really into big construction equipment. And we were going by a lot of construction. And he was telling me all about this construction. And as I was looking back and forth in my rearview mirror, I saw this little 4-year-old having the animation, the confidence, the n- no no fear of what he was saying would be wrong or understood. And I thought, all of that, when he goes into school, will go away because the teachers or maybe the fellow students may laugh at him or tell him he's done it wrong. And he'll slowly become less and less apt to just be that wonderful, vibrant person. And I think sometimes that's the way we are in business, where we get new employees, young people, and we want them to fit in a certain mold and don't let them express themselves to be really all they can be.
Mm.
And I think that's what we just have to be mindful. There definitely are systems to follow that would be necessary to stay within regulations and policies and all those things. But when you're trying to get a group to be innovative and creative and k- allow the business, the department, whomever the group to continue to grow, you need to give them that space. And
Mm.
you need to look and observe and recognize that sometimes the younger people do have ideas that are worth uh, making a process or policy. So I think we learn from everyone. We should always be the observer. And I have learned from senior citizens, much older than I am at 67, and marveled at their wisdom and the life that they led. And then, I've worked with 20-year-olds and don't feel that they were that much different than when I was 20. But I'm trying to give them more open space to really figure out who they are a little sooner than it took me, to be in my 30s and 40s to figure out who I wanted to be in life. So I think that's really important. We should always look at everything that comes to us as a lesson and a teacher.
Totally, totally. One line that I really, really resonated with is we are observers.
Mhm.
And definitely, we should always be active observers and try to embrace, irrespective of our age or
Mhm.
um, achievements or titles. So that's a beautiful, beautiful insight. And Vicky, before we wrap up this beautiful conversation, if our listeners would like to connect with you further, what would be the best way?
The best way is you could contact me via my website, findyourleadershipconfidence.com. You can always email me. I love to get emails from folks at Vicki.Noethling. That's Noethlang at gmail.com. You can find me on YouTube watching my podcasts under my name, Vicki Noethling. So there's lots of way. I'm on all social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and WhatsApp.
Wonderful. I'll make sure to have all the links in the show notes. And wow, Vicky, I think this was not only just about leadership, it was about legacy, what we build, how we build it, and most importantly, who we become in the process. So, thank you so much for reminding us that leading with the heart is fuel. It the head brings strategy, and the hands they bring execution. But definitely, it's the heart that brings meaning to all of this. So, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, listeners, until next time, stay grounded, stay curious, and as always, take the mindful journey one small step at a time. This is your host, Sana, signing off. Thank you.